This is Learn to Love Yourself or Serenity with Rosie. And today is the fourth one in a line of 7 about mental health and emotional resilience. Today's topic is surviving a stroke and health crises. So first, I'm going to take a deep breath, calm my energies, and you're welcome to do it as well. I'm going to invite my spirit guides and angels in, and you're welcome to do that as well. Okay, so let's see. So amongst the stroke experience I had, and then I had a heart attack, and then my near-death experience, which the stroke one, and then my near-death experience are other videos you're welcome to watch if you would like. So I want to talk about what it was like to recover from my press stroke, which was a stroke of basically it was caused by inflammation, and I found out later it was because my adrenal glands had shut down because I didn't know I was allergic to certain things, and therefore it made it so that my body shut down. It was attacking my adrenal glands, and they basically shut down. So that's what caused it. And so to me, to recover from something that, I mean, it was terrifying. It was very terrifying. I know at first I literally felt like a computer trying to reboot. What you would imagine when you see the circle going around and around and around. It's like some people call it the circle of death, but I felt like that. Like the words I would try to speak, it was like my brain only put together little pieces of it slowly, and therefore it was like one word and then one word and then one word. And so it was very, very intense and hard. And I think that I was definitely spoiled, and probably the fact that I've always been in tune with my spirit guides, angels, they've always been around me since I was little. And I think that helped me because I had already made that connection rather than having to find them during it. And so it was, I mean, I have friends that said it's so interesting to watch you, and I says, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you act as if they're right there, and I'm like, well, they are. You just can't see them. It's just an energetic feeling. And so, but I definitely think knowing that they're there all the time through all of the different experiences, but a lot through my stroke, because I remember like picking up a spoon and trying to figure out how to hold it and how to make it do what it can do. And that was very challenging for me. Um, there's just so many. It's just like, what can I compare it to? Um, hmm. I I don't know, because it's literally what you would imagine. Okay, this is probably a better comparison. So if you played a game and you got to a certain level, and then all of a sudden you lost all of your progress, and then it was a game where you had to learn abilities to do things. It was kind of like that, I guess you would say. And so relearning to talk, relearning to write, relearning to use my hands, to read, all of that. It was like I knew it was possible, but it was really challenging. And I was very in tune, and in my stroke video I talk about how after my stroke, when I woke up, there was another version of me, a younger version of me that was like around 16, and they knew everything. And so I depended on them a great deal for a year. And then once they realized I was good and I was able to survive, which it was interesting because I retaught myself one of the songs that I used to play on the piano. I had retaught myself that through this other version of me. It's almost like you would imagine, like in the movie or the movie series Harry Potter, how Voldemort had made all these Horcruxes of himself by everything that you interact with in an emotional way. And it's almost like that was that version of me. And that's how I don't know. I have some different theories about that and ideas of how I believe, but I think that everyone that we interact with in a way that is a version of ourselves. But anyway, so having them help me, and I would ask them, and they'd tell me how to do stuff, and then I would try, and then sometimes it didn't work, and then they would explain it again or help me better to understand. And it was like once I relearned that song on the piano, it was like I proved that I was good. And the next morning, then they were gone. I mean, not as I'm not saying they're gone. It's obviously me, so it's still a part of me, but it's not as easily to see as it was. Um, but that helped me a lot in my rehab. I was not able to go to rehab. I was not able to go to speech therapy or any of that. I just had my kids and my little friend, another version of me. And so it was a it was probably, I can't say it's the most discouraging thing I've ever been through, um, but it was definitely one of the top ones. It it was definitely a big push for soul growth and learning more about myself and the things that were important to me and reframing how I was. And it's interesting because my memory, it's like wiped out some people, and I still, I've had people come up to me and they're like, oh, don't you remember me? And I'm like, no memory at all, just like they were wiped off the slate, is gone. And I don't know why that would happen. I do realize now that there's about 3 years of my life that I don't have consistent memories. I remember, you know, maybe 10 or 15 little tiny incidents in that whole 3 years. But I don't have very consistent memories from then. And the amount of challenges that my kids were going through at the time, it's really heartrending because we were not in a safe situation. But I, having the stroke, I didn't even know. And so that was a whole nother challenge on top of it, being in a toxic situation where you're not safe and your kids aren't safe. And my kids said it was like they would tell me and I would just say, oh, okay. And they were just like, said it was no, like I wasn't home. And then it was like one day, then it was all of a sudden, like my eyes lit up and they could tell I was home again. And so that part is rough, and it's taken a lot of inner healing and growth to be able to move past that and to deep dive on your emotions, your feelings. Well, why do you feel this way? All of that. And I can't say I'm done healing, because the more you learn, the more you expand, the more your capacity for understanding becomes. And you realize realize there's more to heal. There's deeper things to go into. There's more to understand. And so I don't believe you're ever done growing or healing or experiencing things. And that's what makes it quite exciting, because you know that there's always going to be something to bring that spark there. But the big thing is I had to be slow and steady, like slow down. And that's when I started actually implementing taking time for myself. Because before that, I was working every day. I was working over 80 hours a week to try to make ends meet because I thought I had to. And, it's hard when when you're in a new place, you're trying to survive, you're trying to make ends meet. And that's the biggest thing, is I wanted to make sure that we were okay. And so it's definitely reframed a lot of that. And then you're bringing back to what's important. But I was not alone. And if you're going through something hard, something that you're struggling with, that you don't see a way through, I know how that feels. It's very, very daunting to feel that. And it literally, when you're looking up and it's like you feel like you've been climbing a hill, a big old mountain of it, like Mount Everest, and you barely get to the thing. You think you're at the top of the hill, only to realize you're at the bottom of another hill. And it's hard to stop and take accountability and realize, and to stay determined and have the discipline to be consistent, because it's so easy to just, I'm done. I can't do this. I'm too discouraged. I'm sad. Everything's not worth it anymore. But then you have to stop and say, no, I've come this far. What did I come this far for? Surely there's a reason. And then you have to find that strength and search deep in yourself of what you really want, and then go from there. Because going to your core and what actually is important is very, very important, because no one can change that. No one can change who you are but you. And so it's very strong. It's very important to be strong and unshakable. And that's when you realize that having self-love and self-care is so important, because it doesn't matter what is going on around you. It can't affect you unless you allow it. Just as a ship, you can't sink a ship unless the water gets inside. Therefore, no one can disturb your emotions or your feelings or your energy unless you allow that. So, and so this is kind of tied into that same topic of how did nearly dying several times shifted my perspective in my life. And I go back to the thing of analyzing what was actually important to me. And this one was a little bit more difficult to come up with something, because I thought about it and I thought about it and I was like, but it is in a way a reality check of some kind, and it makes you reanalyze, rebalance, rechange. It's basically like the Tower card in the tarot deck, and it's it's an opportunity. See, you could call them challenges. To me, I think they're opportunities to grow. And so I was given the opportunity to grow from several different experiences. And, learning different avenues and trying something. And then when it doesn't work, you try something else. And if that doesn't work, you try something else. And you keep trying something until it happens. Because that's what the determined factor is. You have to know down in your core that you want this, you deserve this, and you're going to do what it takes to get it. And yes, it feels like a trial of fire where everything possible is thrown at you. But to be able to come on that breakthrough and see, and you really start to stop when something like this happens, and you're like, okay, what really matters to me? And I had to analyze what really mattered to me. And I come to realize that love is what matters. The way I love myself, the way I love others, that's what's important. Your relationships with yourself and others. It all boils down to that. And actually, it's the one thing that everyone on this planet has in common is love. And so you have to basically have a cold hard reality of finding out what your truth is. And your truth is what your truth is. No one else gets to say what that is. It can be there's so, and there is as many opinions as there is people on this planet. And so you have to realize, and that's why self-love is important, is because you have to realize and understand and comprehend that you deserve that, because you are amazing. You are a brilliant creator. If you weren't, you would not have got given this opportunity. And so that's one thing that really helped me in all of these challenges is I would stop and I'm like, okay, well, I wouldn't have been given this test unless there was a way through it. So I know there's a way. I just have to find it. And then you have to just start picking at things, little things, trying things until something works. And for everybody and every experience, it's been different. There's never been one situation that was the same for me. They were all different, but it all boils down to the same thing, is your relationship with yourself and your own self-love, because you can't give what you don't have. And the next topic is the mental resilience it took to push through the healing process. So again, how I did it is learning getting more into self-love. I had tried. I wasn't that great at it. I will be honest. I hadn't had a day off. I remember the first time that I actually took the first day off, I still remember it. I don't remember, because even after my stroke, I still, when I went back to work, I think it was like 6 months that I went back to and actually got a different job, because having my little friend hang out with me all the time telling me how to do things made it so that I couldn't respond as quickly. And so I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to help someone if they needed help at the time. And so I opted to leave the sheriff's office, which also my psychologist, was it psychologist? I don't remember. Yeah, psychologist. He wanted me, well, he was a psychologist and a neurologist, but he wanted me to quit, because, and I did quit because of him, but he said if I stayed there, I was going to have another stroke. So that was also another factor. But um, it, that's still another thing is your self-talk. The way you talk to yourself is so, so, so important. If you don't remember anything else from this video, your self-talk is so important. How you talk to yourself. You should talk to yourself the same way you would somebody you love. And some people are like, oh, but that's ego. It's like, no, not in an egotistical way. You're talking to yourself as a friend, someone that you care about, someone that you want the best for them, so that your inner child can feel that love too. But for me, I have had moments in my life where the thought occurred to me several different times, and it was just like a blink of giving up, being done with this life. But then, and I don't know, this is just the way I feel about it, and not, if this triggers anyone, I guess everybody needs their healing in their own way. But the way I think about giving up, see, I think this life is like a video game. Except for if you choose to end your life when it's not time, and you haven't learned your lessons that you're supposed to, because you made contracts with people, you made choices before you came here that you were going to do certain things. What happens then? All those people that you made those promises to, all of everything else. And I realized in those moments where it was really low, that I was being selfish, that I was only thinking of myself and the pain I was feeling. I was not thinking about my kids. I wasn't thinking about my family. I wasn't thinking about my friends. I was only thinking of myself. And then the thought of having to start again in this life from ground zero and having to relearn everything that I have already learned. And that usually shook me out of it because I was like, well, no, I've come this far. Why would I give up now? And and so that is another thing with the determination, is it's so important to be able to see, keep your eye on the goal. But also in the same sense, it's a balance, because you don't want to totally be living for the future. You want to also be able to be grounded in the present moment. And so it's a balance. Everything, I'm learning, everything is about balance. Whether it's the food you eat, whether it's the exercise you do and relaxation, whether it's information that you take in or not, it's all about balance. And it's so important. But see, I think if you choose to end your life, now you get to go to a life where you get everything and the discouragement and the sadness that you feel all on top of it until you succeed. And so I think it actually makes it worse for you, my own personal self and opinion. But I do send love to anyone who's feeling like they're in a hard place. And I hope you remember that you're not alone. There is so many people out there around you that want to help you. And I'm not just talking about the physical people. We have so much help around us all of the time. All of the time. You're never alone. But you have to believe it. Because your world is created by what you believe. You have to find a way to keep yourself encouraged. You have to find a way to be your own cheerleader. And that's why the self-talk, self-love is so important, because you can't expect anyone around you to be a expect for them to know what you need every given moment. Yes, as a mom, we try, but, and a friend to people, you try, but ultimately, no one is always going to know what you need. And how would you expect them to even do that for you if you're not even willing to do it for yourself? That's the part that's kind of a kicker, because it's like, oh, I want all this love, I want all this attention, I want all this, praise, but I won't do it for myself, but I expect you to do it for me. And it's just, we have to break out of that mentality. We have to reach for more, because this fight that we're dealing with right now is to learn to control our minds, to become the master of them. You are not your thoughts. You get to choose your thoughts. And I don't know. I just I don't I don't know how to help you understand how important it is. How freeing it is. And how exciting it is to not have to be tethered to things or places or people because of situations. And I see that in relationships all the time. Well, he didn't give me what I needed because I got feeling like I needed this and he didn't give me that. And it's like, well, did you ever give that to yourself? And they're like, well, no. And it's like, well, how is he supposed to give that to you or she give that to you if you don't do it for yourself? And so it makes you stop and realize that you have to be accountable for your own actions. And I don't mean this in a harsh way. I just want you to feel how important it is. Another thing that really helped me in my tough times has been the "Don't Quit" poem, and you're welcome to look it up. I'm sure it's on Google. It goes, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, and the words lost me at this point, but it you can find it and look it up. But that poem really helped me remind myself a lot. And so in a way, yes, I've been more in depth in my self-care since my stroke, but ultimately I've been doing it since I was little, because I always that it was just always that was my protection, that I felt like, because I always thought, well, people can say whatever, but they can't hurt me. They can't actually hurt me because I know who I am. And so if you become unshakable in your own self, your own growth, your own power, you claim that, own it, be that. No one else can affect that unless you allow them to. And yes, I've had times where I've allowed other people to do things, and those were not my proudest moments, for sure. But I did learn. And so the last thing I want to stress, and a lot of people have heard me say it a lot, and it really struck me hard when I was younger and I heard it. One of the guys who talked at our meetings mentioned it, and I'm not sure who it was, but said, never make a life-changing decision in a dark moment. And that's so important. And I've kept that because when your brain feels foggy and you're just confused and you don't understand and it feels like everything is attacking you, just stop. Just stop. Just stop. And just wait. Because at that moment, you can't think clearly. It's almost like when you're thinking with your freaked out brain. So you have your freaked out brain and then you have your logical brain. And you've seen this a lot in the last several years. And when people are in their freaked out brain, they act impulsively. They don't think about the repercussions for their decisions. There's people who's like, oh, I got to do it now. I got to do it now. It's all those get rich quick schemes. It's all of those people that want, narcissists use it a lot because they want a reaction without you actually stopping to think and analyze, because if you analyze it, you would actually choose a different choice. And so they want you to not even think about it, just do it. And I am like that in some ways, like if it comes to drawing or something that's a relaxed hobby. Obviously, in my medical training, but in those are like in life and death situations, that's why you have that impulse. But for people to use that tactic on you, that control tactic, that is not nice. And so whenever you feel that, whenever you feel so triggered, so lost, so confused, confusion is not truth. Truth is clarity. Truth is peace. And so if you ever feel that confused feeling, sit with it. Acknowledge it. Appreciate your ego for wanting to protect you, for wanting to make sure you're safe, because that is what it's there for. And realize that everything has a part to play in this puzzle that fits together tightly, because all pieces come together and there's always a reason for everything. And so that's just one of the big things that I want to stress is if you stop, ground yourself, go for a walk in nature, listen to music that calms you down, talk to someone you love, read a book. There's so many avenues you can do to connect with yourself. Get around, go soak in some water. I love my baths. I mean, anyone who knows me, I love my baths. That's the thing. I love candles. And so it's just, if you're looking into the flame of a candle and you can talk to it and it responds like it's listening to you. And so it's more, instead of just looking, when your outside world is chaotic and confusing and you can't see clearly, that's a call. The universe is saying, hey, this is a thing. We have this big out light saying, hey, listen, you're not listening. You need to go in. You need to figure this out. And so it's when you have that confused feeling, stop and focus in and wonder why you feel that way, why you perceive the world the way you do. Because it's just a call that you can grow more. And then when your mind is clear, when you feel at peace, when you feel happy, then you can make that decision because you're thinking clearly. So these are just some of the ways that I have worked through things. And I'm not saying I know it all. No, absolutely not. There's as many ways to do things as there is people on this planet. But if this can help you at all, I'm grateful, because that is why I share these stories and lessons I've learned, is because I know what it's like to feel alone. I know what it's like to wish you had someone to talk to and you don't feel like anyone understands. So I just want you to know I do understand. I see you. I hear you. And you are loved. But I just want you guys all to remember how loved you are and how you can do so much. This world, as we're seeing it unfold and seeing all of the old crumble and fall away, it's so exciting. And we're getting to see this new world being formed right before our very eyes. We live in the time that the Mayans prophesied of, and other people have prophesied of, a new age. And it's so exciting. And so I hope all of you are excited too. A little terrifying, but a little scared at times, a little unsure. But ultimately, change is good. So just remember you're loved and have a wonderful day.